Hi, this is Krista. This is a response to CK Strings in the video regarding Dominion. Since the comments are limited, I didn't have much to, say. This will give me a more opportunity to post something more extended, a little more in depth, and so forth. Okay, here goes. You cannot say pointless. Why? Just about anything can screw the system of any organized structure. You cannot deny that. Destruction and chaos is a very important principle when it has to do with creation. Everything must be disassembled, destroyed, and be created again. The destruction of stars gives birth to others through the debris of cosmic dust. Chaos is both movement and evolution. It is a process to what everything in creation becomes manifested and returns back to the chaos field. The flux of chaos appears in everything within nature, to the evolving universe, to the mountains that we see above, to time that we observe, which is given change of transformational systems, and to the evolving brain, many subsystems of nerves and so forth. In many philosophical principles and narrations, chaos has played many significant roles. In Mayan cosmologists, the first sun beings, Tapio and Gukamas, however you pronounce in English, arose out of the dark void. In Egypt, the god Ra arose out of the Nun, or Noon, or Na, which was represented as the eternal, unbounded primal waters of pre-creation. Ancient Egyptians depicts the origin of creation to be chaos. In Chinese philosophy, the yin and yang interwoven arose out of the Tao, or the empty wu of the chi flux. In Japanese Shinto, it is described as the soul. In Western philosophy and science, it is described as a vacuum. This is the constant flux of everything in creation. Just about everything has harmful adverse effects, but challenges are fundamental for great changes to begin. Every positive peak is determined by its negative, and things die so they can be reborn within the cycle of creation. Chaos theory represents the great relationships of unity, where initial conditions, sensitive dependence on initial conditions, where small things have large scale of effects. It is the small changes, cumulative influence in small changes within a system. This would be, or is associated with, butterfly effect. Chaos shows that everything is related, where everything has an effect. We all are connected in an interconnected vortex, where these infinite possibilities can drastically change on everything else, which is part of the system. Adversity has its advantages. As for being the weak counterforce that can push us in a new direction. The idea of screwing up isn't the issue. All things in nature are unconditional and work in terms of unity, being in equilibrium with nature and its environments. To work together in a team, to create harmony, survive, grow in a natural way. Any species can have harmful effects, but the intentions are innocent that maintains productivity and works to better the whole. Viruses do this, humans do not. When I was a software engineer and malware analyzer, I learned the miraculous evolutionary properties of computer viruses. Viruses were very interesting. They were simply and effective. Simple scripts or executionable codes of programs that inserts copies of themselves into other systems. Change the way they behave, self-replicate, etc. They effectively communicate with other types of malware and spread by using many creative executions. I had high respect for them due to this. They didn't kill each other, didn't use dominion to overpower others, and didn't focus on the mere selfish individualism to get some kind of gain. What did they do? They worked together with everything else. They didn't wish to be gods, and they had to infect a host in order to survive. They had to in order to survive. they lack an efficient productive function, so they couldn't survive without infecting hosts. The thing is, humans can self-replicate on their own, but they choose to invade everything else and drain all for natural resources. Then once they have, they move on. See? They also kill each other off. Viruses do none of this, unless they are engineered by humans, obviously. They survive just like any other species. Every species does kill in the name of survival. Every predator has a prey, etc., and the cycle of life continues. But lives in cosmic order and revolves around nature and bettering the collective. Humans do not. You see, the intentions of viruses are harmful or to just serve their ugly dominion to the expense of all life, and will continue. For what? To lose one's actual freedom, to be a prisoner, to live off the mass extermination. For what? To be God or think one is God, which is just foolish. Without a host cell, viruses cannot carry out their existence, function, or reproduce. They cannot synthesize proteins because they lack ribosomes. Viruses cannot generate or store energy in the ATP, but absorb metabolic functions from the host cells. They are also parasitical. They do not. They do need cells for building basis materials for amino acids. Viruses only contains RNA or DNA, but they lack both. The job of DNA, it serves as the storage of genetic information of an organism, where RNA acts as a messenger that relays that genetic information from the nucleus to the ribosome. You see, viruses needs a host as animals or we need food sources to survive. As environments are consumed, organisms need food for glucose and other substances to generate and replace cells and other things. It is called existing. Existing is also the give and take principle. To take, we must give back, and we must sustain the environment for the good of ourselves and the world's. Humans break this sacred principle and eternal truth due to their arrogance, foolish pride, dominion, etc. They take and they don't give back. They destroy the environment, kill each other, and enslave animals. Why? Because they cling so much to control and their dominion? Bullshit. You see my point here? Or do you need me to spell it out with you with a magical crayon? Of course this information has its very much points. Strange that you missed it. The points? Now I'll spell it out again. Viruses exist to serve one another, and even if they do have adverse effects, they don't serve their ego. They serve the better of the collective. They don't enslave, don't lie, and they work together. They have hosts because they have no choice. They have to survive. Such things as computer crashes or other because other viruses modifies the computer in a where it wasn't designed to deal with the modifications, and the memory process just goes a bit whack, and you have errors and malfunctions because they couldn't anticipate the changes. Other organisms die because yes, they spread, but they have no choice. They have to. Humans don't have to. See the validity or point? Do I have to spell it out a little more? I used to think as that humans are viruses, but my views have greatly shifted. Before calling it pointless, do your research, learn, understand, without treating the materials as incoherent. If you wish to reform or reject what has been said, please at least use the proper premises and objectify your claims. Give the proper conclusions based on research and reasonable forms of dialogue and the facts that back up your claims. We all have different viewpoints based on our different experiences, but we must at least try and objectify our ideas in a reasonable structure syntax that are properly researched, postulated, and meet the criteria of reasonable information. To say this is pointless is a bit naive. Everything has a point if you look hard enough. Everything has its validities. Have a nice day, and my English is not perfect and everything, so I apologize for that, and I hope the message has been clear, and have a great day. And to speak more regarding myself, reference. I'm a very passionate scientist. I was an ex-software engineer. I worked with viruses and stuff like that. I'm a scientist. I'm a writer, a poet, an artist, and I'm native to the Native Americans. Here in New Mexico, where I live, there's many Native American tribes, and Native is a very much part of my culture. I call myself an dark animatistic. It's a bit difficult to explain in a few short words. I am of Nempa, Ninjutsu, martial arts. I'm a Tao alchemist and spiritual healer, and that's what many anthropologists call shaman, or if you want to call it that. I don't really always like the labels, but I'm just saying a few words from this to give you a basis, or like a basic of what I'm, my reference and my experience, and have a good day.